Welcome to another episode of Real Talk. Officially now, we've transferred this podcast to Real Talk with Chris and Ross. This is a new program we have here. Ross is an amazing individual that has joined us here at our Team Freedom here at eXp Realty. And excited to kind of create this next segue in a journey of our podcast that we provide. And again, we're still sticking with the theme of all things real estate related. And honestly, kind of entrepreneur driven as well. This is designed for those out there that are listening that are interested maybe in real estate, understanding the real estate model, real estate market, and anything that's designed around somebody who's driven, relentless pursuit of entrepreneurialism, capitalism at its finest, what America's built on, people who really think differently, right? And that's the kind of core group I think we're kind of targeting with this podcast. But primarily since Ross and myself are ideally real estate agents or realtors, myself been in it for over 20 years. Ross himself in it too for several, almost up to 10 years. We have some a lot of time under our belt, knowledge and experience, and a lot of sweat and tears too, right? Good times, bad times. But so welcome to the podcast episode. I think it's number 14 and the new addition to Ross Rawson in our talk. I'm excited to have you, my friend, because I was getting kind of lonely talking about myself and people. So we have this little back and forth thing, and I really appreciate and respect you so much. So why don't you real quick here, introduce yourself, kind of give a brief intro so people in the audience listen, kind of know your background, set the stage for us.
Heck yeah. So first off, thanks everyone for taking the time to listen. And I know Chris has really put a lot of time and effort and energy to make this a platform that people can feel educated, empowered, and also just make some, growth in their business and lives. So Chris, thanks for having me even jump on this thing, man. That's awesome. So I'm over here back in the Michigan area right now. It's absolutely cold here. I don't know where you're from, but we're at it was 6 degrees this morning. So loving it. God. I know, it was a wild one. But yeah, I've been in Michigan, coming up in real estate now, going on over, 7 years, and absolutely love what I do. Run a team here, joined EXP really earlier this year. It's actually coming up on a year next month. Come on, let's go.
That's awesome. You're excited.
Been committed to just basically, growing myself, growing my business, and now focusing really on helping growing others. And really, manifesting everything and anything that I really want in life, and being that person that, can educate and be there to, keep going. So it's been an awesome journey, man. And I love it.
I love it. It's interesting. I just kind of want to, perfect. You said what you said, that you're in a place now that you really want to give back and help. And I know a lot of people talk about it. We could talk stories about people who kind of speak on the fact of I selflessly want to help other people. We got iconic people, right? Martin Luther King, people who make changes in the world because they wanted to find the good and just being a good person, right? And kind of finding that genre of people. It's interesting with the EXP model that we're talking about that. And I'm glad that we're talking earlier, right? What are we going to talk about? And that's perfect because it's interesting. This year, I had made a statement of identifying what my purpose was this year. And it was challenging for me because I didn't think I really had a real solid purpose for a long time. I think it's almost a cliche in my mind that people use that.
It can be. Right? Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Find your why. Everyone's preaching the find your why. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like this loose thing that you throw around. I think a lot of people talk like I love you, right? I want to use that. But how many people use it? I love you. It's loosely thrown around a lot of times. I don't mean that everybody out there in the world that's saying I love you doesn't mean they don't mean it. But
for sure,
it could be a term that's used loosely and not really with the intent of something solid behind it, that they have some meaningful to it. So anyways, I can rattle on. My purpose this year was one of them. And then here's the other thing I identified. You can have more than one purpose.
That's right.
I was always this pigeonholed, oh God, I got to find this one purpose. I got to find this one thing that means the most to me. And honestly, I didn't have any because I just couldn't figure out the one. So now it was all right, where do I want to be? So what happened is I started off with this first purpose of me. I wanted to become the person I need to be. There's a lot of life-changing things in my life right now personally that I wanted to become the person I needed to be in order to create things I wanted, like success, freedom, wealth, right? Quality of life, which I think anybody listening to this podcast right now, I don't care who you are, what race, color, sexual, or you're male, female, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants those things, right? Quality of life, freedom, wealth,
happiness,
right? And most people will never get there, right? Which is why we can talk about there's only 1% of 1% that even reach that level of success. I mean, the Tony Robbins, the Grant Cardones, those kind of people, right? That get there. And
For
then
sure.
everybody's like down here looking up saying, oh my God, I wish I was them.
Well, let me ask you a question then, Chris. So like in that process, what's up for you? Because I'm always interested to hear this from other entrepreneurs. How do you go about finding your why?
Well, it's interesting. I think initially when I first personally started to identify my why was early on when I was younger, right? If I go back to my backstory, obviously, I mean, most people don't know it, but yeah, I've been kind of on my own since I was 15, right? So it was more of a survival piece than anything else. So at that point, there really wasn't like a place in my life for like, what's my why? It was like survive or die, right? Which is, I think, naturally the human brain is wired to do two things, right? Survive and thrive. And right. And so my natural instinct was to survive. So I don't really think I ever identified what why was, except for the fact that I had one of the things that was related, personal to me. Being raised by my family, my dad was not the most supportive. So I would say that, my environment was not really conducive to be probably being successful. And I know some of your story too. You've had a very
I can
life.
relate, man. Yeah, I can
Right.
relate. I can relate big time. Yeah. It's hard to try to figure out those environments, and not only try to figure out those environments on your own, but then try to reset the standards of what they're supposed to be. Like, right? Like what are the healthy standards of, creating a good why or creating a good life and all that when you really don't have much to base it on, right?
Oh, 100%. And I think that's where the key is. I keep preaching right now, and everybody, it's about personal development, right? Personal development will enhance that. And 9 times out of 10, if you really plug it into yourself and doing the work to really bring yourself to a higher level, to quote unquote, become the person you need to be, then I think a lot of times that why and that like purpose starts to rise out of the universe, right? And then you just got to be in a very open place to be able to want to welcome it in and bring it. They say like attracts like, the energy within yourself, where you think about comes about. And it's true. I mean, you can listen to this all day long, and people probably that are listening right now probably think it's hokey pokey, whatever. And those are, again, the small people that probably will not succeed. And I'm not being mean or disrespectful. I'm just being honest, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to think differently. You got to act differently. You got to be different in order to get to things. And it's interesting. I was just listening to a little quick podcast with Grant Cardone about that. And he was saying, he's actually going to be throwing a 2-day seminar up in Arizona. Right. And he's all about this. Yeah. He's like, number one thing is this. He says, he pointed to his mind. He's like, we're going to figure out how to fix this. Because right now, if you can't fix your mindset right now up here in your head, nothing else matters. Right.
Correct.
And that's where it all begins. Whether you want to be an entrepreneur, a real estate agent, a CEO of something, doesn't matter. I mean, whatever, sky's the limit. You really got to get your mind right. Right. So, but in going back to that, the purpose that I had, and kind of what I was going to get to this point, was that I wanted to selflessly help others become the best version of themselves too. Right. Yeah. It's that Jim Rohn thing, right? In order to get what you want, the fastest way to get what you want is to ideally help everybody else get what they want or become what they want, right? Transform their life. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm reading this book called The Brand, right? The Brand Story, that book for a month by David Williamson or Donald Williamson, The Brand Story. And in there, he talked about that, a couple things today about that, how uniquely we don't want to just change lives. We want to transform them. We don't want you just to win. I want to transform your life, right? And that's the key. So where I'm at, when mentioned you said that, was that I am at the place now where I've managed to get with the XP as this vehicle that we've now entered into. It's created a life for me that really I've never been able to have before. And so I'm in a place now where I actually don't have to actively sell real estate anymore, which I think in all intents and purposes, I think every realtor would love to be in that boat, right? It's like,
that's the goal. I mean, because let's face it, you see so many people out in the world that are realtors. They're always trying to create that exit. They're always trying to find the road off. I mean, how many realtor retirement parties do you go to? I know for me, I've never even been invited to one yet. And I know a lot of realtors.
I've actually been invited to the funerals. Sorry. Not the retirement party.
Oh no.
Okay. That probably was too soon.
No, but there's a lot of truth to that though. Right. Yeah. And really, with the XP, you do have that option to be able to be in a position like yourself to where now you can freely, like you said, help others live an extraordinary life. And not only does it benefit you, but it empowers your life, because now you're excited to wake up every day because you're doing what you love to do. And then that just feeds off of everything. And then you create such an amazing culture and lifestyle off of that, you know?
100%. But the challenge is that most people, and I'd say the average person, the way we're wired and raised in our environment is kind of like, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a greedy, selfish mentality. Again, the brain irks in two ways: survival to the fittest, right? How do I survive and thrive more than the next guy? And and it's proven, right? You put people into a room where only one person's able to get out, people act differently, right? It's been shown. Right? It's a survive and thrive. So I think innately the human person wants to always think that, what do you really, really want? So my point in saying that is that, I'm actually have committed this year to doing an in-person real estate mastermind group. Because I think
That's
two
powerful.
things, right? Number one, I think post 2020, we had a lot of challenges where people were segregated, as we all know. We were forced to stay at home. We were forced to stay, shelter in place, and then kind of isolate ourselves, which human behavior does not function well on isolation.
No, it doesn't.
We
Naturally.
need energy. We need to have energy. And so we're coming off of that.
Well, even think on relationships in general, right? Like, I mean, in order to really build a true bond, in order to really have that connection to see, to feel, to touch, to understand, you do have to have that in person, right? They call it the belly to belly, sales. It's so important to feel that connection. It's like my wife and I wasn't just going to go through virtually, get to know my wife and then marry her. No, I had to hang out with her, go on a couple dates, see, feel it out, see who she's about, see what she's about, really connect. And when that was taken away for such a period of time, let's face it, they say it takes 21 days to create a habit, right? And so if we were locked down for all that period of time, it is there's a new adjustment period where we do kind of have to, like you said, now you're just starting this in-person mastermind, right? It's so important because it's a muscle that we necessarily haven't been flexing a lot lately. I mean, it kind of went from 0 to 100. Now, if you look 2023, everyone's hanging out together. Now everyone's doing this thing. And you kind of see that, and you read all over the news, there's like this shock effect. If you're even when you're out in public, people, there's just kind of like it's an elephant in the room. It just feels different. But we can re-embrace it, like you said, by taking action, creating groups and coming together and feeling that connection again.
Oh yeah, well, I think there's that weirdness that has set into humanity that we have this awkwardness. It's like the awkward stage, and we're trying to transition back in that. And I think more importantly, we want to throw in the factor of where we're at. If we're speaking in the real estate world and arena, the market obviously has shifted to where it's at. It's not what it was 3 years ago. That was unrealistic. It was not sustainable, and we needed something to kind of bring it back to earth. And this is a great market for anybody listening right now. And you have not been in the real estate industry for like 10 years or less. This is an actual ideal market. The ones that are showing up to work will survive and will flourish. It's the ones that were relied on the social media. And I'm going to put this there. I'm not negating and saying that social media and all that technology is not proficient and does it not work? Absolutely, it does work. I would not make that my only source or resource of trying to generate real estate business, because those ones that created those real belly to belly in-person relationships that build a strong foundation, those are the ones that are going to survive.
That's right.
So I'm going back to that, and I'm realizing that I'm seeing across the board a lot of people where I have conversations with agents where they feel lost, they feel confused, they feel overwhelmed. A lot of them just have no direction and have no idea what to do because, again, they've automated themselves out of a business in a relationship business that we call real estate. It is a relationship business. And
that's right.
With the technology, they've automated. So now there's like a struggle bus for them, right? It's a struggle bus and they're trying to, so I feel like I'm in a place now financially where I can give back. And that's where I'm kind of coming off of what you said. I love what you said, that you're in a place now where you're like, I want to give back. I want to help. And I do truly want to help. And people, it's funny, I'm on the phone. I'm like, hey, I'm creating this new mastermind group. I'd love for you to come partake of it. It's broker agnostic. We're not talking about names, brands, or anything at all. This is not about what you can offer. This is about how to get down, roll your sleeves up, and actually perform and succeed at a high level, if that's what you want to do. And so they're like, oh, what do you want? like, what is it for you? Like, I'm absolutely nothing. And they're like, huh? No, absolutely nothing. Like, I want nothing from you. I want you to show up and I want you to succeed,
Come on.
But it'd be interesting to see that. So I really appreciate you saying that. I guess is my point in saying that. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. And we talked about stigmas. And I think that's one of the stigmas that people think that, I'm finally in a place where I can give back truly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is my purpose, to go back to that and bring it back to a purpose and why it is to help, right? Because I feel like I am a great coach. I'm a great inspirational person. I'm not saying this from an arrogance or an egotistical manner, just that I really truly do love to watch people thrive. And I do really love to see people grow. That excites me.
That's awesome, man. And you know what? It's contagious. That's the thing too. It's so contagious watching others, get it and actually take their life and change it, right? And not only change it, but then watch the repercussions that actually affects. And you said something really powerful too, just a second ago. You're like, hey, a lot of agents, let's face it, under the last 7 or 10 years, it kind of has been an order taking business. And to the other part of understanding your thought processes and, which we talked about in the beginning, really building something. It's like, okay, well, I can think and know that I'm an agent just as much as I could sit here and say, hey, Chris, I think that I'm hungry right now. Okay, well, those thoughts, what happens after I think, oh, I want to, sell houses and, oh, I'm hungry, right? Well, if I'm hungry, I know because I've done it 1,000 times, I'm going to go to the kitchen, I'm going to turn on the stove, I'm going to turn it up to this, I'm going to cut my chicken, I'm going to put it in there, cook it, I'm going to have a meal and then be fed. And the thing in real estate, right, is that in this market that we're in a healthier market that actually requires real deal skills, real deal efforts, real deal understanding of the market, to where you can think that you're a real estate agent. You can know that you're a real estate agent. However, what are the processes? What are the steps? What are the things that you are going to do to produce the same outcome that you did produce in 2020 and the years behind that? And that really is the recipe to it, right? Like, we have the thoughts, but what is the action over here, right? And then do our thoughts align with our beliefs for the action? And then you catch agents, and I see this all the time, at least through training agents, is, you can do the scripts and role plays and everything, but then you also got to drive the vehicle. You got to pick up the phone and make the effort and fail and try it and have those belly to belly meetings that are uncomfortable, sometimes. But because of that, just like if I think that I'm hungry and I learn how to turn on the stove and cook my meal, there might be a time that I didn't know that the chicken only needed to be cooked for 20 minutes, but I burned it because I cooked it for 30. But because of the effort, my thoughts, I was hungry, created action, got the result, is the same thing in the real estate, same thing in any business. We can have the thoughts of who we are, but we need to also have the understanding of action and then the beliefs in alignment to what works and failing and trying things out. And I think that's what's so cool about being part of Team Freedom too, is that a lot of those things that we have that, we do make mistakes on, which I truly believe that failing is probably one of the greatest gifts you can ever have in life.
Oh yeah, agreed.
It just is. The more I smack my head up against the wall, the better I get and the better the people around me get. But that's to piggy that back, is that with Team Freedom, which if anyone doesn't know and they're listening to this, it's basically our group that Chris runs here at EXP. And we meet, we have Monday, we have our script training. Tuesdays, we meet for a team meeting where we hear from high level professionals that are just crushing the industry. And then Thursday, we have the model explained for anybody and everybody who just wants to know about EXP. And to revert everything back in full circle, one of the main reasons why I love having Team Freedom here at EXP is that those things that I'm talking about thinking and then doing, in real estate, as they adjust, I need to hear from the leaders. I need to understand, because they're going to give me the tools and the resources, like you said, you're doing in your mastermind with meeting, that can not only shorten the time frame of my mistakes, but amplify me taking the ground that I need to in life. And it's just powerful, man. It's good stuff.
100%. And I appreciate you saying that. And I think that's a great focus piece. I love a couple of the words that you said: process, consistency, methodical, right? Like, you had to have, and then we talked about the why, right? And you're right. If anybody wants to go back 3 years ago and talk about they were crushing it in real estate, I was crushing it. I had my best years in 2019, 2020, 2021, 22. Yeah, it wasn't you. I'm sorry. I don't want to burst your bubble and make you feel lesser than. but it was the market. It wasn't you. And the truth is now you have this, I want to say loosely the word entitlement, because it kind of deranges in that territory closely of, entitlement of business being thrown at you like left to right, and you didn't have to work for it. And now during that process, though, you didn't hone in any skill set, because you're right. You mentioned it. You're an order taker. You just took orders. So you didn't really enhance any skills in taking order. I mean, you could teach a 4-year-old how to take an order, right? Write a few things down on a notepad, and I just took your order. Good, I'm done. It doesn't take a lot. And I'm not, again, in any way, shape, or form want to offend anybody that's listening to this. This is just what we call it real talk, because the real that is, we're just keeping it real. That market was a market that anybody could have sold real estate in. Same way it was in 2002, 2003, 4, and 5. Anybody could have sold real estate in those markets too. And then we see the repercussion of that in 07, 08, and 09, right? But that was an extensive overplay in real estate. We're not anywhere near that now. However, it's the same concept, though, and the same, pieces of you got to get back to work. So understanding your processes, being consistent, and sharpening your skills. It's a skill-based market right now. Nothing else. If you're going to show up to some seminar and spend $5,000 and sit and listen to a guy on the stage tell you, hey, you need to be doing this, like you expect to walk in there and have some magic wand waved at you, and you're going to walk out the door, and then miraculously your phone is going to start ringing again like it did in 2020.
Doesn't work.
You must believe in Santa Claus too. Like you must still write a list to Santa Claus and hope that in Christmas Day you wake up and presents are in the tree. Again, it's being facetious, but
or ignore the bills that are coming in and act like they're magically going to go away, right?
Yeah, like these bills will walk away. They'll pay themselves.
It doesn't work like that. But you said something here. You said, I don't mean to offend anybody. I honestly think that a true leader, and to speak from truth, it shouldn't be taken as offensive. In fact, it should be an honoring thing, right? Like, I don't want to lie to you and tell you a false bravado and have you actually believe something that's not real, because and I've even been in an environment where, you try to create a team where you don't want the team to have to experience those conditions, but then you realize that, no, you need to give them the real meat and potatoes. Hey, no, this is what it is. Because if not, like you said, they're going to go out there like a knight in shining armor out of that awesome conference, and then realize that this brand new armor that they just put on really isn't going to mean much unless they go out and use it, right? They have to actually implement it, right?
Figure out how to use it. I actually used this analogy the other day on one of my reels about skill set, on how important it is, right, to understand a skill set. And to explain the difference in skill set, I used the example of the movie Troy. Everybody watched the movie Troy. Brad Pitt, when he went to go fight that massive, enormous Greek warrior, I think his name was Bulgarius at the time.
By the way, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So they they call for him. Brad Pitt shows up, Achilles shows up, but the guy wasn't blinking an eye. I mean, Brad Pitt walked up, got off his horse with the most confidence in the entire world. Everybody else was shaking their boots, like, oh my God, you're going to fight this guy. He's like 4 times your size. And from perception, you would think that by size, Achilles would have no chance, right? Because in our mind, right, it's like, oh, the stronger one will always win. But, they say it's not the size of the dog and the fight of the dog, right? And it's true. Skills is very similar to that. He knew precisely, and if you watch the movie, he knew exactly and precisely what he needed to do strategically to conquer that guy who was 3 times his size, but he was very confident in his ability and the skill set of war. So there's where skills make a difference, right? Are you going to be the guy who walks into that listing appointment and be intimidated, be threatened, self-doubt, disbelief, because you're not skill set? I mean, I talk about, let's break down skills. Okay, great. What are you doing for scripts? Because the reality is scripts are being done every day, right? People are being scripted all day long.
All day.
Who is the best scripter will get yourself into the door for a listing appointment to get a listing presentation. And then if I fine-tune my scripts and dialogues, I have the ability to go anywhere, any place, anytime, and talk to anyone that potentially, it's a numbers game, eventually might add up to me getting a listing appointment, right?
That's right.
I get it to the listing appointment. But then I've actually done my other skill set work, which is identifying personality traits.
That's right.
Understanding the DISC profile, a DISC.
Yeah.
Right? How am I going to win this listing presentation? Well, if I'm this guy who doesn't know my disc profile assessment behavioral patterns, and I'm come walking into a listing appointment, I had the great ability to sharpen my skills and scripts and dialogue. So I got my foot in the door. But when I got my foot in the door, I brought my 200-page listing presentation to a high D guy when all he wanted was just to give me the bottom line. And I just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to like, let me show you, right? So you failed there too. You weren't skilled in that arena to understand your disc profile. But then even if you got past that and identify your disc profiles and make sure you adapt your presentation according to your disc profile behavior, then it's, where's your numbers? What do you know your numbers in your games of your area, like days on market, price points, how many houses in the market, how many pending, like where's that?
How many shows to pending, right? All that stuff. Yeah.
That when you show up, your numbers, you are not like jab, 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 punch, right? That's what it is. It's jab, 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 punch.
That's right.
And so it's like your skills got you in the door. Your skills got you past first base. Your skills got you past second base. But then where's your negotiation pieces? Where's your customer service pieces? What are you using as a value proposition, right? Third base, round the corner, coming to home plate. All these things, these skill set, people think, oh my God, I can't get a deal. Oh my God, I can't get, my real estate business isn't running. Yeah. Or are you even working on all 3 of your bases right now? Like, have you even swung the bat and got to first?
Yeah.
And if you did, do you know how to get to second and how to get to third and how to get to home, right? So it's interesting that people really want to go out there and perform at a high level and get all this business and be this great crushing real estate agent, but yet you have zero skill set, or you might have a little bit of the skills in a little bit of those areas, but you're not great at any one of them. Self-mastery. Self-mastery is key.
No, it is. It really is. And I love that you say that because it's true. In fact, in my early days, I remember I had a listing appointment. I got there, and I love that you say that because, I was dealing with an analytical person, and really I was bringing too much of the emotional components on that appointment. Yeah. And I remember after like, butting my head up against that, I went back and I talked to my coach. He goes, Ross, you need to understand that there's drivers, there's analytical people, there's amicable people, and then there's people that are more emotional that just want to hear the lovey-dovey stuff. If you don't know how to tap in and read that off the get, you're going to fail. And after understanding that, my business amplified. But I think there's also a key component here too. And you touched on it, right? Is this learning, and having the self-mastery. But I think that sometimes we study so much on the objection that we're going to face rather than actually selling ourself on the information that we're giving, right? Mm-hmm. Like I can tell myself, read my affirmations and study all the charts, but until I sell myself on it and I believe it and know it for myself, it's not going to mean nothing. I could know what a driver is, and I could know what an analytical person is. That's all great. But until I understand it for myself and actually know how to implement it and know that, hey, this is what we do. Because, I look at real estate too, and I know you can probably agree. It is really like, I don't want to say the word acting, but it almost needs to be so repetitious that when you are on an appointment, when someone says this, it triggers another thought. When this happens, you're on second base, you already know how to get to third base, right? And having that ebb and flow, because if it's not unconscious behavior and a trained skill, then when you're putting that thought in action, that's when we start to stumble. And that's when we start to fall and we start to create the bad habits and then not get the results that we want. And we look back and go, why aren't my sales where they need to be? And it's because, well, one, I don't even know if I believe that I can have the sales that I want, nor do I believe that the stuff I'm saying is actually going to work because I haven't tested it out enough, right? Yeah. I mean, how often does that happen with entrepreneurs? I know I've struggled with that early on.
Ton. Absolutely. I think the self-belief piece is huge. And the reality is, it's interesting when you talk about it from a leadership perspective. The greatest way to learn is to teach, right? But yet in a crowd and a group of people, as you're presenting stuff, it's the objective is not to make sure your crowd or your audience believes what you're saying. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure you make them believe that you believe what you're saying, right? And that's the intent what you're just bringing, right? That belief system is so much more powerful. If you walk into that listing presentation or you sit down with that buyer consult, whatever you're doing, and you have that strength and that confidence, and without a single doubt, I am going to serve you in the best possible capacity ever and get you what you need.
Come on.
That's like powerful, right? And honestly,
Yeah.
when I, I haven't sold real estate in a while, but when I was excellent. And again, not tooting my horn, but I was excellent at the buyer consultation piece.
Mm,
I always used to get my clients into contract immediately. In fact,
mm,
I had several occasions where my buyers canceled on me already in contract because they got cold feet, and their response to me was, Chris, I didn't know I was going to get in this house that fast. I was thinking it was going to take months. I'm like, I don't play around. If this is what you want to do, my objective is to get you into this home at the cheapest price possible, least amount of work and
come on.
effort, right? And that's what I was good at, though. But I got to
Yeah.
that buyer consultation table. I set the tone, set the expectations, laid out the map, showed them the processes, and it was not a matter of, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. We didn't run into
Mm,
any of that. It was like, oh, yep, Chris, right. That's right. You told me this is what's going to happen. And oh, yep, check mark. And oh, we're here. Oh, check mark. Right. So there was
that's right.
never any misconception or dark areas or voids in any way of that process where they felt they got left unhooked, and I didn't ever leave it unhooked. Right. So it was like,
Come on.
boom, 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 boom. So yeah, same thing. Right. But I went in there with this confidence, and I used to tell my buyers, I am going to send exactly only what you want to see in a home, because you are telling me. Now, again, we all know buyers. We can say it right now. The
Yep.
cliche is buyers are liars, whatever. And the truth is, right, they got us, oh, I don't want this. I want that. I want this. I want that. Then next thing you know, oh, I want this. So the reality is, though, you can only do your best. We all
That's
know
right.
that. You can do your best. But if you do enough and you hold them accountable to this, because I would literally tell them at the seating table, that console table,
Mm,
you are telling me you want X, Y, and Z. Yes? Yes. Awesome. I want to be very clear here. This is precisely what you are looking for, because I'm only going to send you properties through a portal that you are exclusively telling me you want. So if I send you something and you say you don't want it, then there's some miscommunication here. You're either not telling me the truth, you're lying
mm,
to me, or I'm not doing my job. And honestly, I don't really ever not do my job. So,
mm.
and I would have that conversation, super transparent. And they
Yeah.
respected that, though, right? Okay. And so when I was sending properties over, if we went to go look at 4 or 5 of them that day, I'm like, this is exactly what you're looking for. I found 4 or 5 houses, precisely what you have mentioned you wanted. So
Mm.
that being said, we are going to write on one of these properties today by the end of the day.
Love that.
True
Wow.
talk. We're not
That's
going to come back and you're going to say, well, let us think about it. No, you can take about an hour or two to think about it, but I've laid the house out exactly what you wanted. You are actually sitting at my table. You do want to buy. You have a pre-qualified letter, which means you've already started the intent of buying. You are wanting to buy. So if I show you what you want, we're going to write on one of these properties today, period. Or honestly, I will refer you off to somebody else, because that's not how I run my business.
mm,
Set standards, set tones, set processes, set expectations. And it was okay, awesome. And we'd go out and see 5 houses. Yep, we're going to write on that one. And sometimes we write on 2 of them. Okay, we found 2 we really liked. But the reality is, I
wow.
was not wasting my time going out. And it kills me when people, God, I'm showing 15 properties. I'm showing 25 properties. I'm showing 35 properties. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Who's
Yeah.
lying to who? Somebody's not
Yeah.
telling the truth here.
That's good.
So,
No, that brings out a whole new perspective, because a lot of times, I know, at least for me, I would be so worried. Oh, I don't want to I don't want them to feel like I'm rushing them into the sale. But like you're saying, you already have that confidence. You're already setting that expectation. You're not pushing anybody into a sale. You're making sure, hey, am I crossing off all your boxes? Yes. Okay. Is this what you like? Yes. Okay, great. Well, then what are we waiting for?
yep.
This is, yeah. And no, that's big. And again, though, back to the belief thing. Why aren't agents doing this the right way, going about it that way? Well, maybe because they're afraid. I don't want to be called that cheesy, salesperson, or I don't want to come off pushy. But again, you had a belief that was so high in yourself and your process and what you were doing, that you knew that it was the right way.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I love that.
Scarcity. That's what that is. You're coming from a place of scarcity. If you're thinking
Mm,
that you're in a place that potentially you could lose this buyer, hey, guess what? Here's a news flash. If you're going to lose him, it's meant to be to lose him.
mm,
There's anyway, right?
come on.
You need to perform at the level that you need to perform at to run your business, to stay efficient and proficient. And if it doesn't fit that doesn't fit it. Why do you keep trying to put a square peg in a round hole? Scarcity. You cannot. And then again, though, if you want to take that, like, you can't run your business from a place in a mindset of scarcity. It has to be from abundance.
That's right. Come
Be
on.
willing and prepared to lose that which is probably not yours to begin with.
And you know what they say too with that, whenever whoever has the least amount of interest in a negotiation typically wins the negotiation too, right? So if you're coming from that place of, hey, I'm not worried if this doesn't work out. I know that I'm serving you properly. I know I'm doing the right thing. You can lay it down and say, hey, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. Yeah.
Yep. And you'd be surprised that when you start to think in those kind of energy flows that you're putting out there, where you don't take any nonsense, so to speak, right? You don't put up with nonsense and the stuff in your work that's disruptive and dysfunctional that you know doesn't align with you and your process. Again, I keep throwing that word there because this is where it's at. People don't process. What the hell is process mean? Yeah, you got to figure out what your freaking process is, people. If you don't figure out your process, you're screwed. Number one, that is the strongest, most powerful word is process because it covers so much.
That's right.
In this platform. So yeah, when I say skill set, discipline, consistency, and processes, yeah, okay, it's overlooked. The word process is overlooked because I feel like that doesn't process. Well, what's process? I don't know what process. Yeah, better get right with that word process because if you don't have them and instill them in your business, in your life, you are literally shooting yourself in the foot right now. You will not survive. That's just it. And I'm not fucking a gypsy or some fortune teller. I'm telling you right now, you will not survive. That's black and white.
This is real talk right here.
Oh, this is real
Chris
talk.
and Ross right now. Let's go. We need to get a button every time that we say, yeah, boom. Like a,
or,
yeah, exactly.
Or what's that little staple button? That was easy.
That's right.
That was easy.
Do you listen to Brad Lee at all? He's he's like a real estate insurance type of guy. I'll send you him after this, but he has the drop the bomb and he clicks this button and the bomb goes boom, every time there's a nice thing. So
I love
maybe
it. Well,
maybe we'll incorporate that on this podcast.
Gotta, figure out how to emphasize on some of those things. They're like, yeah, I need to drop the microphone on that one. But
boom.
That's the kicker though. It's like it blows my mind that everybody's just waiting around trying to just identify like this, like a second coming. Like the clouds are going to open and God's going to put their hand down. I'm being over dramatic, but you get my point. They're like waiting for this
moment. Yeah.
No, dude, just pull your pants up, put your big boy pants on or girl pants on, and let's go to work.
Come on.
Right.
I used to say, hey, if you wait for the stars to align, the world spins way too fast for that to ever happen for you, my friend. So it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I love that. I want to touch on something too here though, because I know that there's this person that's on here right now. And because, hey, I've been this guy before and maybe you are really good at your processes. Maybe you've had your processes written down so much, but you're in that phase of analysis paralysis. So they overanalyze and overcomplicate the process. I'm curious to see, Chris, so when you're in that mode, you got your processes, you're doing your things, you're feeling like you're on fire, but then you're just analyzing the heck out of it and you're kind of froze because you're stuck in that. What would you tell the listener right now to, get out of that?
Well, the reality is that anytime you're overanalyzing something, then you still have questions about something else. Right? It's like a buyer or a consumer. If they're not buying from you and they're like, well, we need to go think about it because there's something that's unanswered in their mind yet. You haven't fully explained something in detail. They're not comfortable with it and they just don't understand it. If I had a better understanding of it, then I would have absolutely zero reason not to buy right now.
Okay.
Well, for you to overanalyze something, you are still missing an understanding of something. And then it's a twofold thing. Maybe you're still coming from a place of scarcity because the mind of scarcity always thinks is the worst case scenario. The what ifs, right? That's a scarcity mind. What if? They live off that shit. Their whole entire life is what if? What if? What if? What if? Okay. So if you live from a place of what if, you're not only being a place of scarcity, but you will find yourself in that analysis of paralysis mode, which means that you're either just a fail to pull the trigger kind of guy or gal, or you just really need a little bit more understanding of something else, which means you should do some more personal development. You should really throw more into yourself. You should be able to have a little bit more self-belief in yourself. And usually it does. It's about self-belief. It's the belief system, right? I don't want to jump off this cliff and do this dive because I'm scared and I just don't know if I can do it or not. Okay.
Love that.
Well, you can be like some of us, and I'm raising my hand, where I will jump off the cliff and don't give a shit. Like, okay,
Yeah.
if I freaking die and break my neck, well, you know what? I had a good life. I had a good life and a good run at it, but screw it. But what if I actually jump off and it really is successful and I just have this newfound belief in myself, right? It's
Come
like
on.
being baptized. You come
That's
out of
right.
the water like, I'm reborn. It could be magnificent, and that'd be the only time I would ever live off of the possible of what if. Like, what if I actually do it? Not what if this happens? What if I actually do it and it turns out amazing?
That's right.
Right.
That's
So
right.
this analysis
going.
paralysis thing, honestly, is just a level of insecurity and self-doubt and inability to have a belief system and whether they are able to do and perform, because that's all it is. You're going to pull a trigger, you're not going to pull a trigger. If you're going to pull a trigger because you have complete 1000% confidence in what you're about to do. So
that's right.
There's a disbelief there and disconnect. That's what that is.
Love it. Which goes back to that, having the tools and understanding and the training and being unconscious when you're on the basis, going to one base, the second base, to the third base. Like you said, if you're going on the listing appointment because you got good to get there, but then you don't know how to get to the next step because you don't have the confidence and you have that gap in your business. Like you said, you're not going to get the listing. You might get the appointment, but you're not going to get the listing. And so that really is, that's a big, big point. I'm glad we covered that. I know there's a lot of people out there too you have to be, if you're in real estate, you've came up against this.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
And there's another piece that I won't get too much of this because we got a little time, but we can add and go one step further and piggyback on this and talk about measuring. Measuring your business, knowing your numbers, right?
That's good. Yeah.
And that whole key. Right, getting the contact to appointment to contract to close. Well, first base to second base to third base to home, right? Well, if I'm hitting the ball and getting to first base, but I just can't seem to get to second base for whatever reasons, I need to identify what is missing for my ability to move forward, a process again, why I'm not able to move forward from first to second base. But the only way you're going to know that is measuring your numbers, right? How many people do I have to call to make a contact? How many contacts I have to get to make an appointment?
Yeah.
How many appointments I have to go on to actually get into contract? Well, if I'm missing here, then maybe it's my scripts and dialogues aren't good enough to get me to actually get a good contact. Maybe my negotiation skill set or knowing my business better can't get me in the door and actually get the appointment or get it to move to the contract phase or what, you know what I'm saying? So just to piggyback off that, processes again is actually measuring and knowing your numbers in your business. People a lot of times have zero. I could literally have a room full of 100 real estate agents. And I can tell you right now, maybe one is actually tracking and measuring their numbers. 99 of them are clueless.
Yeah, no, it's facts. It really is. To know your percentage of conversion, to know your percentage from each stage of the game is so important because then too, it also helps you when you're in the game because, and by the way, I'm a big process guy as well. And I think that, that's one of my favorite words is falling in love with the process. Because once you understand your conversions, right, you're not going to be so emotional when things do go a certain way because you understand, okay, hey, maybe I'm at a 24 or 50% conversion. All right, well, I went on 5 listing appointments this week and I got 2. Oh, okay, hey, I'm lining up with my conversion. Now, can you still go back and try to understand your data on how to do better on that next appointment? Absolutely. Maybe you can convert that person at another day or at another time. But knowing the information also is going to help you adapt and not be reactive in a market, but to respond in a market, right?
Yep.
Because you're not coming from a place of, hey, man, why the heck did I do so bad today? No. These are my numbers. This is right. So everything that I'm attesting to doing, it makes everything that much easier because in real estate and entrepreneurship, we all know that when the gas is on and we're in the process, we're going, we can't have a break mindset unless it's time to break. And when it's time to break, it needs to be time to break. It can't be gas break, because then we get that cycle in our head where we're constantly feeling busy and burnt out and worked out and we don't know what we're doing. And what happens? average agents, right? We know 1 in 10 make it their first year, 1 in 100 make it by year 5, and they say 1 in 1,000 make it by year 10. So if these are data points, why is it? Because people get burnt out. They're not treating it like a business. They're not treating it like a real process. And so it is so important to track your data, to track your numbers, to know, because it's not only going to help you in the game, but when you're checked out of the game, so you can actually truly check out and enjoy the life that you're working so hard for. You know?
Amen. 100%. Like we're preaching to preacher today. I feel like I'm Reverend Jackson on a Sunday in
Come on,
church.
Let's get a tithe going. Let's get a tithe going.
I love it. We can talk all day long. I appreciate this. I mean, this is another episode for Real Talk with Chris and Ross. We are going to continue this journey. You know, we had a lot of great bullet points and great topics we talked about today. And I think in all, this is what we call a digestible dinner, where you got to start with certain pieces and a la cartes and work your way through. I mean, you got to crawl before you walk. And again, a lot of great options that we talked about today. But, you know, maybe it's just finding one of those things that you really plug into and really get self-mastery in that specific area. And we'll talk more on that as we continue on with weeks moving forward. If you're interested in more about this, Ross and I will continue these conversations on. We're going to share some more processes probably next week. But we really appreciate you guys out there listening to us. And we hope this was of value to you guys, because that is our main purpose and goal this year, was to selflessly help others become the best version of themselves, and hope that we have a piece of that in enlightening your life. So
awesome.
Until next week, Ross, I will see you again. And you guys in the audience out there, we love y'all, and we'll talk to you. Have a great week and crush it.
We'll see you.